As always, Shonen Jump continues to serialize new manga month after month, with this newest batch of 3 manga being pretty interesting. Today I'm going to run through all 3 new Shonen Jump manga, give you my thoughts on them, where I think they might go, and highlight how they fit in the current state of the magazine. Afterwards, I'll also be addressing my previous video on the last 3 manga added to Jump, as well as discuss how those series are doing now and how I feel about them generally. Without rambling on any longer, let's jump into the first of these newer manga. Under Doctor by Kyo Tanimoto is first initially seeming to be the most anticipated of this batch, being a classic battle manga spliced with doctors. Tanimoto is relatively new to Jump, having put out numerous one-shots in the last decade and doing assistant work on hit series like My Hero Academia and The Promised Neverland. Their scope as well seems fairly broad, though their last one-shot, Bodyguards for Everyone, which was fairly well liked, gives us hints into what Under Doctor might be like. It's as much a martial arts assassin type manga as it is on doctors, with quite a few people remarking here and there that it shares similarities with Sakamoto Days and the like. Recently, we've had quite a lot of manga that deal with hand-to-hand combat like Sakamoto. Shinobi Undercover is one, as well as Kill Blue. This could lead it to being in the right place. This is a type of manga that's in vogue right now, or perhaps this element is something people can find in other series in the magazine currently, like the aforementioned Shinobi, so perhaps its appeal won't be as grand as it seems. Thankfully, there are some other things Under Doctor has going for it, namely its doctor elements, or at least what it is conceptually. Its protagonist, Haiji Kino, isn't an assassin or hitman, but an underground doctor, one who specializes in doing hush-hush jobs, often for or related to criminals or different organizations. While it hasn't explored this avenue with much depth yet, there is totally room for a vast world of interconnected dark criminal cabals to explore, and with it already exiting Japan in this first small arc, the global criminal world could set itself apart from its contemporary manga within Jump. Its doctor elements are another thing that could set it apart too, and it's another element that drew me and many others to the series initially. Haiji from his design also evokes Blackjack, the Osamu Tezuka series focused on a doctor with his black and white hair, though aside from chapter 1, the doctoring has been fairly minimal, with just mentions of the profession post this here and there, with some medical lingo being thrown around. We've yet to have a chapter that really focuses on Haiji doing some doctor work. It's mostly him just busting heads. It's still very early days though, so I think it's worth waiting a little to see how these elements may be integrated. What I can say I do like, however, is how chapter 1 went, with it sharing a lot of respect for the profession of healthcare workers, showing that while exceptional, Haiji still respects others in the field and ultimately elevated them and placed an importance on the role of doctor. The medical elements could also be played around with within the series, as Haiji is also combat trained. It's possible, based on the crumbs of flashback we've received, that the central idea of the story will see Haiji brushing up against adversaries where he might even have to harm or kill them, going against his code. There's a lot of room for growth here. The avenues, at least to me, are quite clear. It will come down to Tanimoto's writing ability though, whether or not these avenues are taken and a compelling story manifests. Sadly, recent chapters haven't been the most compelling and a bit messy, introducing a mute character who needed to communicate via sign language, a neat addition playing to the series' strengths in the medical field. I and a few others from observation wrongly assumed that this was a deaf character though, with Haiji going on to cure them, making the next chapter very confusing. Granted, a lot of that is on me, but I don't think it clearly conveyed things, with this arc being muddled overall. It is quite hard to communicate, I think, sign language and this difference sonically between characters. It's a very lofty idea to tackle as your first major story arc, so I can kind of commend Tanimoto for that, but I also feel like something a bit simpler may have been better to be tackled first. The general ideas floating around here are interesting though, with a criminal using their own daughter as an organ transplant. We're juggling with some pretty heavy topics we don't see in Jump often, so even if this doesn't stick the landing, as long as it engages in its ideas more, the underworld, the crime and healthcare aspects, I think we're in for something unique, which is what I have my fingers crossed for. Doctor manga as well in Jump isn't the most ubiquitous thing ever. I can't think of too many off the top of my head. So this being in Jump, it has the potential to make waves if it keeps on going and is good. There isn't really a big manga I can think of where people are like, yes, that's the Shonen Jump doctor manga, other than Dr. Stone, which is way more science focused and not really about the medical field. We'll just have to wait and see how things play out though. The second manga of this batch is Kinato's Magic, and based on its title and illustration alone, this was perceived to be the least interesting of this batch from the beginning. This is also by Kento Amamiya, the creator of Shonen Jump's Shadow Eliminators, a sadly lackluster battle shonen series, which I really don't have much to say about. Maybe one day I will make an Axfall on it, but for now, it's evident that Amamiya has improved drastically. The one-shot The Great Demon Lord is Sweating, published post Shadow Eliminators and before this, was one I greatly enjoyed, balancing good art, some light erotic elements, comedy, and mountains of heart. It was a real treat. The same energy has then surprisingly found itself present in Kinato's Magic, a fantasy battle manga featuring a medic-type character. A funny coincidence, we have two doctors essentially from the same batch. Kinato is quite different though, being more of a chiropractor with his Seite magic, using his skills to loosen up people's bodies and amplify them with said magic. It's more appropriate to say he has very fine control over his magic that allows him to do this as well as other things as we come to discover. So far it's explained everything quite simply, how Kinato's magic works, how it connects to healing and other things, leading to some bombastic action moments as well as a lot of comedy, something which I think the series excels at. There's something in particular to how the jokes flow in Kinato that I dig. The humor definitely matches my own, from Jien eating moss to Linne constantly trying to get money or taking over the series as a narrator. Every single joke has landed for me, like this one in chapter 3 where the guild Jien runs has a fake cutout exterior. It's this zany cartoony humor that gives the series this laid back goofy vibe, fitting as along with this, I do think its aim is to be a chill time. How the series feels overall is kind of how I'd imagine Kinato's Magic would make you feel as well. The world building takes a similar light breezy pace. None of it is exceptional or unique, but it's solid and understandable enough that you don't really have to overthink about it. There's magic and dragons, guilds and quests, etc. The art is exceptionally solid, big spreads, a feast for the eyes, the action is cool, characters are well designed. They're also, so far, very likable. I mentioned Jien and Linne being funny, and already 4 chapters in, I like them a lot. Kinato is probably the weakest character, but it's by his nature, I guess, as a meek character, he needs room to grow. In the 3rd chapter, we're introduced to even more characters. They're guildmates in the Iron Fang's Adventurers Guild. Olgun is a pretty funny character who we haven't seen much of, but he's an older man who speaks with much gusto. I'm glad that there is a variety of characters on display here as well. Having an older man in the cast with a moustache, I don't know, there's something about that I like. I like that we just don't have a ton of teenage characters. We have some variety. We also have Kamenagi, who is a super badass sword lady with a lot going on, which I will mention in a bit. The first little arc we had is a test with her and Kinato, with Kamenagi not liking him initially, finding him weak and unnoteworthy. But throughout the course of the chapter, on the quest they go on, they have to kill some slimes, and Kinato demonstrates a level of heroism which grants him some level of trust. Kamenagi is a character who's used to being all alone, unable to stand by others, her ice powers are likely contributing to that, powers which also harm herself. Though with the help of a dedicated support mage, she's able to fully let loose and let out a devastating ice attack. Here's the cool part though, and it probably won't appeal to everyone. Through Kinato's healing, the manga gives us an ecchi type spread of Kamenagi in a bath-like trance. This is taking ideas from The Great Demon Lord is Sweating, the one-shot Amamiya did, which I loved. Kinato is developing on top of that idea. Its focus on the healing properties of hot springs and baths, how relaxing and special they feel. So in one big moment, we get this tantalizing element, something you might see out of Food Wars or something, but there's a lot more to this. There's healing and relaxation. Amamiya's art also goes beyond illustrating something titillating too. It's warm and cozy even. I adore how this has been integrated, not just showing healing in this very basic way or focusing more on battle application or elements like Underdoctor has. There's a certain mood Kinato's healing takes, there's visual elements being established, which I think could be a gateway for all sorts of things. Erotic elements, humor, peaceful, cozy feelings. There's a lot of different directions this could go in. As I mentioned prior, all the characters so far are really fun too, and getting to see them bond and grow around these elements will be great. The extra 2 cast members who joined in the end of chapter 5 also are very promising as well. There's a freshness to this series, it's crisp from its clean artwork to its light fantasy setting. I really enjoyed this every week so far, and I don't think I'm the only one either, with a lot of people here and there being pretty positive about the series. Also, people seem to like it for various reasons too. Its humor, its fantasy setting, its characters, etc. It's got a lot of breadth to it already, just 5 chapters in. Hopefully it can keep that up too, as I really want Amamiya to succeed. We then reach the final series of this batch, Alien Headbutt, which is rad as hell. Heel wrestler returns to the island he was born on after getting a title belt to find it's been overrun with aliens. So now, in order to discover what's going on and where his family is, he has to suplex and beat the crap out of all of them one by one. There is such a cool factor to this series that's exceptionally meat-headed. It's simple, wrestling aliens is all you really need to really say to someone to get them interested in this, and then pair it with some cool spreads and boom, that's it. But there is actually quite a bit more to Alien Headbutt that I like, and I'll tell you why that is. Firstly is this large mystery component. While the series is mostly concerned with its protagonist Oga Shirokiba, the hellhound wrestling aliens, the where and why is important too. We are as in the dark as he is as to what's going on, and piece by piece we're putting everything together. I wouldn't say the series is aiming to be exceptionally mysterious, but it's consistently intriguing, which adds an extra layer to the series, which I feel meshes with the action perfectly. Why are the aliens here? What are they doing? Why are there different varieties of aliens? Where are his family? I enjoy the vibe currently that's pervaded the series of this unknown. It makes things kind of scary. You could say alien even. It's been a while since a series has captured me in this way from Jump, one where I have no idea where it's going at all, but excited and full of questions. Where the series goes is anyone's guess. Will it be relegated to this island? Will we extend into all of Japan, or even the world, or to space? I think I'm fine with any and all of that, to be honest. I really don't mind where this goes, as long as we have Oga and he is just beating the shit out of some aliens. Another core facet of the series that I enjoy is its art. Akira Inui being another newbie author like Kyo Tanimoto, having also done a variety of one-shots, with this being their first serialization. Inui's art is noticeably rougher and scratchier, which isn't to the series' detriment, as it's perfect for illustrating the meaty kinetic wrestling and beastly aliens that are on display here. The design for Kiba is sick too, his long jagged hair, vicious eyes, sharp canines. When you roll out the nickname Hellhound, this is what I picture. The variety of expressions Inui can convey through him is great, with him having a bunch of visceral ones, befitting of his heel wrestler status, but also some nicer, goofier ones, as well as some that inspire confidence in him. For as raw as he can be, he exhibits a level of heroism and love for his fans, friends, and family that comes across too. He is simultaneously extremely cool and a very nice boy, by far the best protag out of these three, oozing charisma. I want to root for him, which is great, as he's a wrestler. That's kind of their whole deal. Even for heels, you just might do it in a slightly different way. And speaking of wrestling, that's an interesting topic for Jump, and one I've wanted to see it visit for a long time. I'm not a huge fan of wrestling and I don't know much about it, but it seems like the perfect match for a shonen manga with its clearly defined characters with gimmicks and bright personalities. It also has flashy in-ring fights and background drama to draw from too. This isn't quite that, granted, but at least we do have some wrestling. It's the first one, in fact, in quite a long time, if we don't count Hinomaru Zumo, which is sumo wrestling. The 70s to 90s had their fair share of wrestling works, mostly pro wrestling, notably Kinnikuman, the Momotaro, Riki Typhoon, and some less successful attempts like Joker, which also featured a heel wrestler, or Wrestling with Momoko, which is a slightly different type of wrestling, but that's beside the point. It's been a good almost 30 years, I think, since we've gotten a wrestling manga within Jump. It's a pretty fresh thing for the magazine, which has been made even more unique with the inclusion of aliens. So far, the wrestling elements have been pulled from consistently too, with a lot of wrestling fans seemingly enjoying what it's doing. Hopefully that's the case for everyone. If you are a fan of wrestling and don't feel like it's doing wrestling justice, feel free to let me know. But I'd wager in the future we're going to see more as well, and see flashbacks from Oga's career to establish all the different moves he uses or justifications for how he's acting and where he gets his strength from. Even in the newest chapter, he kind of explained how using momentum in the ring can help you beat bigger and stronger opponents than yourself. I am enamored with this. It's such a fun series to read every single week, and I can't wait for more. As a little aside, this isn't about a manga from Shonen Jump, but if you do want a full-on wrestling manga, I'd love to recommend Harukanaro Ring, which is amazing. It's a 4-volume long Joshi Pro Wrestling series that sees its protag go from rookie to pro, and it's an absolute blast. Please read this one, it's genuinely great. Now onto a broader topic, the perception of these series and how we perceive new works in general. For Jump, if you're really in the nitty-gritty of the community, I guess, your first impression might be the covers of each series or even the small previews you get in the magazine. Basing your initial thoughts on the series on these can be pretty dangerous, as you have weeks until they debut and people's minds tend to wander and all sorts of theories gestate and emerge. I don't really want to fault anyone for having expectations though, it's a natural human thing to do. That being said, for these series, I think they're worth giving a try, and when we did try them, we found out that, Kinato's preview image looked pretty basic. It would be a manga about a healing mage that sounded a little boring. That was the general sentiment I felt surrounding the series at the time. We wondered how Amamiya will pull it off and didn't have much faith in it, only to find out that actually it's an exceptionally funny and charming series that was way better than anybody anticipated. Alien Headbutt was also a joy to figure out and see week to week, and has been especially charming. Underdoctor was also initially the series with the most buzz around it, having a great main character design and a strong name as well as premise. It also had the luxury of being first, I guess, but as chapters have come out, those high expectations have gone to meet its shaky first few chapters, causing a bit of a wave of disinterest or dislike in some cases. The perceptions for all of these series have been shaken, I feel, and as I mentioned in the last video on the prior 3 rookies, it's good to take your time and let these series run their course. See how they fare over a volume or two before you cast a final damning judgment. On the topic of that, I also want to relay a level of frustration I felt recently. There's been a lot of reactive chapters for some of these newer manga. For Underdoctor, there's this discussion surrounding healing disabilities and the confusion surrounding its mute character. For Kinato, there's Kaminagi, who was perceived by many to be into women, only for her character to evolve and exhibit a potential example of the find the right man trope. I understand why people are frustrated surrounding this, but I think there's more at play here with how her character discusses the roles we play. Also, hoping for genuine queer rep in Jump is a slippery slope to begin with. There's also Hero Girl and Demon Lord from the prior batch, with its main character wanting to turn the Demon Lord back to normal, which in the process means stripping them of their darker colored skin, and yeah, I see why people wouldn't be a fan of that. I'm not going to fully defend any of these manga and say they're infallible, especially the last one, which I have grander writing woes with, but these are all still ongoing manga, and I think there's a larger movement here of applying different values or perceptions to these series which the creators aren't thinking about in the slightest. In all cases, I don't think they mean to offend, and people are putting their own labels onto something that's in such a fluid stage of development. We're talking about manga that are less than a volume or so in. Characters, their traits, the ideas of the series are going to develop, and to an extent I think when reading weekly series like this, you need to be somewhat flexible in your perception of them. Overall, I think people should wait things out longer though. Let more chapters come out, see how things change, as your initial perceptions can change very quickly too. We're dealing with brand new stories from brand new authors with very limited information on their scope and how they intend to handle things. This is admittedly a pretty charitable view though, so feel free not to listen to me, and of course, if you dislike reading these series, don't find them fun anymore, or just aren't interested, then don't read them if they're not for you. Giving things a shot is always good though, and to build onto this idea of perception in general, I want to talk about the last video I made on the newest Jump manga, which really surprised me. I was pretty blown away by the support for the sentiment I pushed in the last video, and it made me feel good that so many people were willing to let these series take their time, or just give one or two of them a shot in general after I spoke about them. Moving on to actually talking about the prior 3 series, let's revisit them. They were Gonron Egg, The Mage Next Door, and Hero Girl and Demon Lord. A big proponent of that original video was to give things a shot and not cry for their cancellation at the slightest bit of them faltering. Currently, it does seem like all 3 might be heading to a premature conclusion though, which you could point out that maybe it devalues what I said before and reinforces the more fatalistic perspective that there's no point in reading them as they'll eventually be cancelled. I still think the opposite is true though, and to dig into that, let's just go over each series and why I still enjoy them or see some value in them despite them potentially ending. First, we have Gonron Egg, my beloved. I'm certainly in the minority with this take, but I still dearly enjoy it for various reasons. I'm not blind to its shortcomings though. It does a lot of telling and not showing with it, providing a bunch of exposition. Its story has also picked up pretty quickly, time skipping already, making it feel very disjointed. On the art front, Tanizaki is clearly suffering as well. Some illustrations look like very bare-bones sketches, which could be the result of weekly serialization being too much of a strain for them, or them falling ill. Even so, there's still a lot to like about this series. Tanizaki's art, even when sketchy, has this life to it which intrigues and attracts me. A really solid example of how interesting he is as an illustrator can be seen in volume 1 of Gonron Egg. It's just majestic. His eye for colour is striking, especially with all the red and gold harmoniously radiating from this thing. His messy, inky lines I feel really come to life when they're given colour like this, which I don't think fully comes across in his black and white pages. I still really love the art though, with Gonron's time skip design being extremely sick, though I am biased when characters have tied back hair. The story is pretty messy and basic at the same time, all things considered, but I'm enjoying the ride. The weird world Tanizaki has concocted, all the odd characters that pop up, they're very endearing to me. I don't share the same love for the next 2 series, but I know others do, and sometimes if you enjoy something, small aspects like its characters or art, how the author draws specific things, these elements might be fragmented, but they're still worth experiencing the whole of that thing to find these small pieces of enjoyment in it. At the end of the day, I'm going to look back on Gonron Egg and remember it, not because it was a robust series that did everything right, but because it was unique and catered to my specific interests and sense of style. Osegawa, or The Mage Next Door, is next, and to be frank, this was never really for me. Its style of comedy just doesn't make me laugh, and the setting of wizards in contemporary Japan doesn't really excite me like some other settings do. I also feel it's fairly weak, all things considered, on a character front. Osegawa is fine, but a lot of these sidecast are quite basic, and I'm a little tired of fights not being as creative as the series concept perhaps promised initially. There are plenty of people who do like the series though, who get the comedy and find the interactions between Osegawa, Nobuko, and Minimagus quite entertaining. Some chapters have also been quite fun, like the Maid Cafe one. It exhibited elements of charm here and there through the density of Osegawa and how adamant he is to stay true to his magehood. The series reflects this too. It feels steadfast in what it wants to be, it has its vibe and ideas that it's running with it, which I think I can respect. Even if this one wraps up too, the general premise was worth seeing through, and maybe this meta element won't appeal to everyone, but I appreciate seeing artists grow within the magazine and catching up to them whenever they make their next series, which I'll be doing with Hideaki Nabe too, if Osagawa does indeed end. Hero Girl and Demon Lord has been the most mixed of these three, I feel. Gonron has been met with almost universal disdain. Mage Next Door has its fans, but it's pretty quiet on that front. And for Hero Girl and Demon Lord, I've heard as many fans as I have heard non-fans, and I think I get why. Conceptually, it's a bit of an odd duck, playing with tropes I wouldn't traditionally associate with Jump. This can make it feel fresh for some, and to others, they won't mesh with it since it's not why they read the magazine. Initially, it was a series I was hesitant with, but I grew to like it. Then I have since looped back around to being hesitant and not really liking it again. The core relationship between Asuka and the Demon Lord is a big reason why, it being very ill-defined. Somewhere between roommates, rivals, and potential lovers. It's a little awkward and the initial charm has worn off for me. It doesn't help that the series is going in all sorts of directions, focusing on home life, school shenanigans, Asuka's friendship, the hero type characters getting involved, which all sounds like it could mesh together well, but none of it is coming together for me. There's some funny jokes here and there, and it can be cute, but the incongruous nature of all of these chapters' topics just leaves me quite disinterested. Furthermore, the main plotline it seems to be pushing is turning the Demon Lord back into a human, and I'm not sure I have faith that it will tackle this plotline with enough care. Asuka wanting to turn the Demon Lord back into a normal person / boyfriend him up narrative is something I don't particularly care for or endorse. It doesn't particularly feel like the Demon Lord wants to be normal. They haven't really expressed that a ton, so it's a really odd storyline so far. If it does just end with them being normal human couple, I think that would be really boring as well. So hopefully it's just setting up this narrative and showing us that actually I was wrong to think this, you are good how you are, and it won't be some Demon Lord conversion type stuff, because he's not that evil. Like, he may be called the Demon Lord, he might have horns, but he's a pretty chill and nice guy overall. On the flip side of this as well, I'm gonna play devil's advocate a bit. There are plenty of people who really enjoy this series. It has a big, comfy, silly vibe, the characters are cute, people like the interactions between them, there's a niceness there, and the school setting is appealing as well when that does pop up. So I can perfectly understand why people do enjoy this and wanted to stick around. All three, at least to me, do exhibit some signs of them ending, with Gonron even having announced its final battle, so that's definitely gone. Mage Next Door seems to be setting up a major confrontation, as well as providing us a sudden backstory for its main character, which is never a good sign, but it's not a complete death knell either. And then Hero Girl and Demon Lord is focusing a bit more on this Demon Lord turning human plot, potentially giving it an avenue to end on. Gonron is for sure ending, since we've had the in-magazine confirmation of its final battle in advance, but for the other two, it's just a strong guess, so don't take this as they have definitely been cancelled. Whatever happens though, I will still try to read and try to earnestly enjoy and engage with these manga until the very end, and I'd encourage everyone else to do the same as well. And those are my loose thoughts on some of Shonen Jump's newest manga. I may return when the next batch comes out if I feel like it, but I don't want to shackle myself into doing videos like this for every single batch, as it can put a lot of unnecessary pressure on me to get things out in time, and I'd like to keep my focus on other things I do, like the history videos where I run through Shonen Jump's older manga, or my X-Files where I review cancelled stuff in a bit more depth. I also generally like to script my videos more and take time to think about what I'm trying to say, whereas here it's a lot of loose thoughts, so if this doesn't sound as consistent as some of my other videos, that's generally why. If you'd like this video, consider liking the video, subscribing, and commenting your thoughts on these new manga. All of that helps a ton. It's also what I want to encourage anyway. Discussion on these new series, which isn't overly vitriolic or hyper-focused on things just being cancelled. Actually discussing why you like or dislike things, their artistic elements, their story decisions, etc. is what I'd like to promote first and foremost. So hopefully I'll see you down there in the comments with your thoughts on what your favorite favourite manga of this new batch was. Do you like Under Dr. Kinato or Aliens Area the most?
Wait a minute.
What do you think about the last batch? Have your perceptions changed overall? I also brought up a prior video I made on the prior batch with Gonron, Mage Next Door, and Hero Girl Demon Lord. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on that, you can see them there. In general as well, if you'd like to hear my first impressions of each new Jump series, I actually have smaller videos on them which are Patreon exclusives. These usually come out about a few days to a week or so after the manga debut, so they're very fresh initial thoughts on the series. Over time they've gotten a bit more editing to them, but don't expect them to be super long, like 30 minutes to an hour affairs like my regular videos. They're just little bonus things which I filmed to give the patrons a little extra something as thanks for all of their support. There's also some polls on the Patreon as well, where you can suggest and vote for axed manga, which I will cover in more depth in my Axe Files videos. So if you've ever wanted to suggest a particular cancelled manga that you love that I haven't made a video on, you can do so over there. I also want to stress that nothing is tier gated over there. Everybody has access to everything, no matter how much you pledge on Patreon. The only difference between anything is if you pledge $3 or more, you'll also get a little doodle to represent you in the credits of my videos, like all of these cool people. Thank you, Trinity, Jade, Kazuku Gairu, Circle Zero, Holly the Apothecary, Mayu, It's Faco, Yellowtail, Lace Sloggett, Crispy Bacon, Cho Henshin, Full Metal, Unquestionable, Yuzakura Psycho, Wurzel, Violent, Cactus, Joni, City Name E, Vino Burrito, Caffeine Dad, Cryonaut, Crash, 41IZ, Hong, Jamie Reynolds, Manu, Poke Emblem, James Miller, Jopa Monkey, Just a Virus, Star Sphinx, PK Broly, Fenrir Black, Elijah Espinoza, Neo Humanoid, Mark Nielsen, Electro Pirate, Jay Vasso, Three Frogs in a Trenchcoat, Sir Flash, Gay Shark, Slimy Okra, Giddista, Wavy Sky, TG Talks Manga, John Jerry 722, Andrew, Xenomat, Missile, Tara Elizabeth, Stratomega 13, Dennis Tambek, Jubei, Lise, Frog Dude, Back on Earth, Justin Maikage, Papa Aeon, Gwenta, Mamina, Hilltop, Bako Draws, Otaku Gamer X, Deadpan, Shy Monkeys, Jonathan Dragonet, John Sanford, Color, Jaime, Strawberry Proshone, Vaz, Palette, Ruiner, Juice, Kurumi Nox, Eric Gorski, Mr. Shira, Grizz Exploder, Dextora, Eni Oshowo, Cheese, Emmy, Benjamin, Tenmaku Lover, Taifumi Studios, Ignate, Iliades, Gyrus, VHS Enthusiast, Kanojo, King Snacks, Sidrune, Daniel, and Melons. Thank you all so much for being patrons, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to be kind and take care.